Hello and welcome to the Grade 1 element of the composing for the VCM exams. This is found on page 8 of the Crazy Composing book. Now on page 8 there are 3 little icons to look out for. The first icon shows you the composition requirements for the Grade 1. The next element shows you the theory requirements for the Grade 1. And finally, the third element shown in red is the composer's toolkit, which is the nuts and bolts of composing. So if we go over to here, you'll see straight away that it tells you that you need to make sure that you can set a clef for your own instrument, whether it be treble clef, or with piano it might be treble and bass clef, or you might be playing cello, for example, where you need a bass clef. So you need to recognise and be able to write the clef for your instrument. You need to know all the lines and space notes that are relevant for a very easy grade. Recognise and identify the crotchet, minim, dotted minim and semibreve, and know how to write those. And also you need to know about the rests that go with those notes too. You need to understand about time signatures and how they fit in, and also you need to identify about the double bar line. You need to be able to write the music in the key of C major as well, and also be able to understand about phrase marks or possibly slurs as well. Now all these elements can be found in the Theory Frenzy Grade 1 book, so if you need any help with any of those elements then do get the Theory Frenzy book, and they will help you get your understanding of the basic theory that's needed for this composition element. Okay, so now we go on to the requirements of the composition itself, and it says that the composition should be short, approximately 8 bars long, should be placed in the key of C major, so you don't need any sharps or flats, and should have a melody line only set in a clef for your own instrument. So if you're doing piano, for example, I suggest you do both treble clef and bass clef, right hand and left hand. Okay. Now it should have an opening phrase of 4 bars that form a question, and then it should have an answering phrase of 4 bars which form an answer. So the composer's toolkit underneath just explains a little bit about a phrase, and it says a phrase is like a musical sentence. When you talk you take a breath, like that. So in the same way, after 4 bars you would naturally take a breath. So imagine that you took a breath at the end of the phrase, and so try to get the phrase so it goes up a little bit and then goes down a little bit, like you would do when you speak, because when you speak you tend to go up a little bit with your words, and then at the end of a phrase you go down with your speaking. So do the same in music as well. Go up a little bit, then go down, and that gives a nicely shaped phrase whenever you do your performing. Now this Crazy Composing book gives you an example of the piece My House, which is then shown over the page here on page 10. So My House, if you look carefully you'll see, has first of all a question phrase, and here it is. So you've got C, D, E, F, G, E, G, F, D, F, E, C, and you can see that phrase goes in an upwards direction, and then at the end of the phrase it goes back down again. So that's a nice shape to the phrase. And you'll notice as well that it only covers 5 notes, C, D, E, F and G. And that's the beauty about composing. Remember, you've got to play your composition in the examination, so make it as easy as possible. We're not looking for rocket science, we're not looking for great performances, we're looking for something that just sticks to the criteria. So keep the performance simple as possible. Remember the KISS word, keep it structured and simple. So the first thing that the book asks you to do is, after you've looked at the way that the structure is shown for My House, with the phrase going slightly up and then going down again, is to try composing your own 4-bar question here on the stave. And it says, put the suitable clef for your own instrument, put the time signature, and write a 4-bar phrase that begins on C and ends on C in bar 2 and descends down. Right, now I'm going to go on to the second phrase now, which is your answering phrase. So here you've got the same thing, the phrase going up and then you go down. The important thing to remember on the second phrase is that you end on what's called the tonic note. And normally the piece tends to end on quite a long note as well. So in this case, because you're in the key of C, the My House song finishes on a semi-breve C, which is a long note. But again, if you look at the phrasing, you'll see that it goes up and then it goes down again. So you've got C, D, E, F, G, E, G, F, E, F, D, C. So you see it goes up and then it goes down. So the book then gives you an opportunity to try composing your second phrase. With the pointers, repeat part of the motive again that forms the question. So what this means is if you look at the first phrase, in My House, you got C, D, E, F, G, and if you look at the answer of the phrase, that also has in C, D, E, F, G. So when you do your composing, it is always a good idea to repeat parts of the phrase again to help with the structure of it. So when you've finished doing your question phrase and your answer phrase and you've written it in the book, you've then got the opportunity to write the phrase as a piece in its entirety. Now obviously if you're writing for piano you might need a little bit more manuscript paper than is shown in this book, which is fine. There are a lot of online sites which offer manuscript paper free of charge, and you can look them up and just print off a sheet of manuscript and write it in quite easily within the book. Now when you finish composing your piece of music here, some extra little details that need to be put on. You need to give your composition a title, which is put here. You need to add your name as a composer, which goes here. You need to put in suitable dynamics. So think about if you want to do it quiet or loud. And again, the Theory Frenzy First Steps book covers dynamics within that. You need to put a suitable tempo in. Do you want it to be slow, fast or a medium tempo? And again, all those words are shown within the Theory Frenzy First Steps book. Then you need to make sure that there's a double bar line at the end of the piece to show that the piece is ended, just here. Then you need to copy your composition and give a second copy to the examiner on the day. A photocopy will be fine. And finally, the most important thing of all, you need to practice your composition so that you can play it in the examination. Now, also remember that the examiner on the day of the exam may well ask you questions on how you actually compose this music. So just make sure you know about the key, you know the note values that are in it, you know about the dynamics that you've put in and the tempo indication and all the details. But as you've composed it, you should be able to answer these questions, no problem at all. It's up to the examiner whether he decides to ask you questions on this. It's not mandatory that he does, but he may well choose to do that as part of his theory questions. So that completes the talk on the Grade 1 composition examination. Thank you.